Well, welcome and thanks so much for tuning in to this virtual conference from A Time to Heal. We wish so much that we could be with you in person to see all of you again and to meet the newcomers. But since we're not able to do that, we're so glad that we're able to do this online this year. We know that you need those resources. Even if you can't get to your support groups or whatever, being able to share this with you really warms our hearts because we're all about helping you create your own best life. So today you're going to get all kinds of information from different people. My name is Stephanie Koraleski. I'm a psychologist and I specialize in working with cancer survivors. And together with Dr. Kay Ryan, who is a nurse and also a cancer survivor, we'll be addressing the topic of body image and chemo brain. Those are things that are frequently distressful to cancer survivors, and sometimes they're not covered well. Sometimes when you try to get some information about those, you're either embarrassed or you don't feel like the answers are there. So we want to tell you what we found in the research and what we've learned from working with people. First of all, I think when you're first diagnosed with cancer, you're usually flooded with a ton of information. You get information about your diagnosis, you get information about all the different possible treatments that you might have. But no matter how much information you have, you're usually unprepared for what that's actually going to feel like to have been through all of that treatment. By the time the treatment ends, a lot of times you look at yourself in the mirror and you don't really recognize this person anymore. You're looking at yourself and he or she doesn't look like the you that you remember from a year ago. You may see all kinds of physical changes. Like for one thing, perhaps your hair hasn't grown back. Maybe you've gained or lost weight. Your coloring might look different. You might look very pale, or maybe some of your skin's discolored from radiation. You might have swelling in your arms or your legs or your face due to different medications or lymphedema beginning. All kinds of things like that. There might be scars. You might even be missing body parts. Some of the things are maybe more internal that you don't really see, but it's a feeling that you have inside. A loss of vitality, maybe changes in your bowel or bladder habits. Maybe there's pain with intercourse. Maybe there's erectile dysfunction. All kinds of things like that can happen. And then there are just the real intangibles, the kind of things like you used to feel strong and invincible, and now you feel weak and vulnerable. Those kind of things are very common to many cancer patients, and people have a variety of reactions to that. Some people are just relieved and happy to be alive, and they don't even really notice too much of that stuff, or they dismiss it as small potatoes. If you're one of those people, I think you should go get a snack right now and come back in about 10 minutes when we start talking about chemo brain. But if any of these changes have bothered you, you're about normal, because most people are a little distressed by seeing differences in themselves, and they're not really sure what to do about it. Some people are really kind of shocked at the outcome of their treatment. I've had many women tell me that they thought a lumpectomy was like maybe a tiny little dimple in their breast, but when they actually saw it afterwards, there's a third or a half of their breast seemed to be missing. They'd had the information, but they had no idea what the reality would look like or feel like. It was very shocking. Some people are frightened by those changes or angry. Many people are just really sad, self-conscious. They're afraid to go back to work, not sure maybe how even their grandchildren or their children or their children's friends are going to look at them. And those kinds of things are very distressful. So when we talk about body image, what are we talking about anyway? You know, body image, by the people who actually study these things, they say that body image is this whole conglomeration of thoughts and feelings about our appearance and about how our body looks and about how our body functions. And when they study that, they find out that it's made up of a lot of past experiences that we've had, along with our culture and our background, and also what's happened to us recently. That makes a lot of sense in terms of cancer survivors, right? So all of those kind of things, like what were you in the past? Were you the pretty one in your family? Were you the athlete? Were you the the person who was always the skinny one, and now you've gained weight? Were you the person in your class who was really popular? Were you the cheerleader? Were you the one that hid behind the lockers when everybody went by? What were you? What was your reputation in your family? And in your culture, what was valued? Was strength valued? Were muscles valued? Was somebody with beautiful long hair, and many cultures having beautiful long hair is considered to be one of the main assets of a woman. If you lose your hair, what does that do to you? And not only that, we're all bombarded all the time by images in the media, and it's all the beautiful people, right? All the stars, all the influencers, all of the athletes, all of the people that are supposed to be so wonderful. We're supposed to aspire to be like that. And of course, we know that these people have been all airbrushed and photoshopped, but still we think we're supposed to be like that. And even before cancer, you may have seen a little disconnect between what you saw yourself as being and what you kind of wished you were. But if after cancer that disparity is even wider, you might be feeling a lot worse about yourself. Why does that happen? I think one of the main reasons is that we've never had a chance to grieve what really happened. Think about this for a minute. If you had a best friend, somebody that you've known since you were a little kid, they were your very best friend, somebody that you talked to practically every day of your life, they knew everything about you, they'd been with you through all the good times, all the bad times, and you suddenly found out that they were being transferred to a research station in Antarctica and you were never going to see them again for the next many years, and internet connection was terrible, you couldn't even talk to them. What would that last meeting before they left look like? Wouldn't you sit down with that person and talk about your history? Wouldn't you tell them how much you cared about them? You'd probably laugh about some of the good times that you'd had together and maybe cry about some of the bad times that you've been through together. You'd probably express the gratitude that you had for all of the time and the love and support that they'd given you over the years. Did you get a chance to do that with this part of you that left? Very important to be able to do that kind of thing, and it almost never happens. Why? Because you get a diagnosis and within 2 weeks you're in the middle of treatment. There's a flurry of appointments, trying to figure out which doctor to go to, which hospital to get treated at, how to do things, how to arrange your work schedule, who's going to take care of your kids and your pets and your parents and everybody else that you're responsible for. And you will reach the surgical table or the first treatment kind of like you've been on a marathon race, and you just kind of, and then you're in the middle of it. You never have a chance to think about a thing. So what I suggest to a lot of people is to just take some time to sit down and talk to yourself. Write a letter, perhaps, if that's easier. And talk to this part of you that's gone. Express that love, that affection, what that part meant to you. What's the history? All the good things that this part has done for you. How much have you appreciated that? One woman I worked with said when she was doing that, as she came to the end of her letter, a Bible verse popped into her head. And it was the one that said, "No greater love is there than this, than to lay down your life for your friend." And she said, I started to cry and I realized that my breast had to leave so that the rest of me could live. She said, I had looked at this as an ugly scar. And after that, she said, I looked at it as a gift. And I began to realize that I'd been given a very precious gift of a new life. And I vowed that I was going to cherish this life and I was going to do the very best that I could to preserve it and keep it healthy. And I no longer look at this as a scar. I look at it as a blessing. You may have a similar experience. I really encourage you to try. It's not silly. It's life-changing. Because it's the first step of what Kay and I believe is a two-step process. Anytime you're dealing with something really difficult, there's two parts. There's a heart set and a mindset. And the heart set is creating this nurturing, loving place where people can heal. We always talk about bedside manner or TLC. You know, that's what others do for us. What we need to do is create the heart set inside of us that creates the TLC for us to heal. We have to use both heart and mind to address any of these issues. So if you're going to try to create a loving, caring heart set in which to heal, how would you go about doing that? If something like what happened to you had happened to someone that you loved, your child, your mother, your spouse, someone that you really cared about, what would you do? You'd try to create for them a very comfortable place to heal, right? You put them in the most comfortable sofa, the most comfortable chair. You get them cushy blankets and do all kinds of nice things. You bring them good healing food. You take care of them. You encourage them to do a little bit, but you don't push them to do more and more and more and more until they're so exhausted. So all of the things that you would do for someone else is something that you may have to do for yourself. A lot of times we don't have that kind of support. But if you've ever noticed, most of us have a little inner bully inside of our head. And that little inner bully keeps saying, oh my gosh, you're being so lazy. Get up and do something, for gosh sakes. Don't eat this. Do more of that. You look ugly. Fix yourself up. Oh my gosh, you're so fat. You're so ugly, right? If you were being bullied by somebody in your life, chances are, as a responsible adult, you would do something about it. You would leave. You would address it. You would get out of that environment. But a lot of times that little bully that lives in our head just has free rein to go on and on and on and beat us up. So the most important part of creating this loving heart set is to address this little bully and counter it with a little advocate, a little inner advocate, like the good mom on the block that always used to come out and make the bully go home or make him settle down, give everybody popsicles and make everybody be nice again. That's what we need. We need something like that. We need that advocate that will help us to do all of those good things. You might need some education to learn a little bit more about your condition. You might need more support. All of those things are there. Do that with yourself. One of the things that I always suggest to people, and this has a lot of backing from a lot of therapists, is what we call mirror work. And what you want to do, you need some privacy for this, but you want to go into your bedroom or into your bathroom and close the door. And then you want to look in the mirror, look yourself in the eyes, and begin telling yourself what's right with you. Say to yourself, I am alive. Or maybe it's easier to say you. Maybe it's easier to hear it that way, whichever way works for you. Maybe you say to yourself, you are a warrior who just returned from a battle with cancer, injured but not defeated. You are brave and courageous. Talk about what's right with you. You are a loving family member. You're a great parent. You're a kind person. And as you say these things to yourself, really let it sink in. When you really do it, you know you're doing it right if tears start to fall. Because guess what? We hear so little about what's right with us and so much about what's wrong with us. Focus on what's right. Do this every day. This is the heart set. You need to create that loving environment. Dismiss the bully. Put all of that right on the inside. And as that begins to happen, you can move into mindset. What I think mindset is two different things. One of them is using all your smarts to go and find all of the resources that are available to you. All of the resources here on this slide are things that are documented by research. So I'm not just making this up. I want to tell you the truth about the things that really can help. All of these things are available in different parts of the country, but maybe not all in your place. And so therefore you look and see what's available to you and take advantage of that. So first thing is you are probably not the only person that this has happened to. Find somebody else who's been through this battle or something similar. You can find this online. You might find it in your community or in your church or at your workplace or in your neighborhood. You might find it through a support group. You might find it through a national advocacy group. But find someone else and listen to them, read their story, hear their story, because they have a lot of advice about what worked and didn't work and how to get through these things. Another way to do that is join a support group. And a lot of those are online now during this pandemic. So you still have access to a lot of those. A second thing would be look for an image enhancement center. Most of the hospitals have these now, and so of course we want to look nice. It's not vain to want to look the best that you can. So go there, and they have things like wigs and prostheses, and they can show you skin care and things. They can show you pretty ways to use scarves and other kinds of things to enhance your appearance. And yes, men, this is for you too. They do have a lot of those kinds of things. Another thing that they have educational classes such as A Time to Heal, but there are a lot of those kind of survivorship programs that are going on throughout the United States, and a lot of good programs that have been online. You can get connected with some of those, and some of those things will be on your resource sheet that you can download as well. Um, Therapy. Sometimes it really helps to be in therapy, particularly if you're having certain kinds of issues, if you're feeling really bad about yourself or having a hard time communicating, or maybe you really aren't very good at problem solving yet, or maybe you're really having some sexual difficulty and you don't really know how to talk about that. A therapist can help you with that, and your social workers at your hospital can connect you with a therapist in your community. And the last thing would be anything that you can do to build your body strength and your resilience back up. So whether you go for a walk with your friend every day, or whether you join an exercise class or start a program like Live Strong or occupational therapy or physical therapy, any of those things can help. So the first thing that you do is you just scan out all of these resources, the things that would target the things that you're most upset about. The second piece is really up to you, because this is about taking action. You have to commit to doing one of those things. And I always tell people, if you're going to join something like a support group or an exercise class or something like that, commit to going through at least 5 or 6 of those sessions before you make a judgment. I've seen very many people who come to one session of something, decide they don't like it, and go home. I'm sorry, but many times that's on you, because you're nervous and you're upset about going in, or maybe it was a bad day in the group, or maybe the person that would have been the most helpful to you wasn't able to come that day. Sometimes it's just kind of scary and you just don't want to go, and so it's a good excuse to say, I went and I didn't like it. So commit. If you really want to take action, commit to going to at least half a dozen sessions of one of these things, and I will guarantee you that you will learn something valuable if you do that. After that, if that's not for you, then pick something else. You're very free to do that. So that's the mindset of dealing with body image, along with that heart set. Let's switch over now to the chemo brain, or the cancer-related brain fog. This slide is kind of funny, and this is kind of how people feel. You might really feel like your brain is flying away, that you're just totally losing it. But I can guarantee you that this is not the case. You don't have Alzheimer's, you're not going crazy. This cancer-related brain fog or cognitive deficits are very common. In fact, the research is very difficult to do in terms of assessing prevalence, because we're not really sure how to measure all of this, but they say any place from 70% to 80%, or from 10% to 80% of cancer patients experience this at some time. And the good news is that it seems to go away for most people after a couple of years. But the bad news is that it really affects a lot of different things. The things that we're most aware of, maybe that we think of most frequently, are things like memory and verbal skills. So like somebody that you've known for a million years comes up, you mean to introduce them to the person with you, and you can't remember their name. You know it, you know everything about this person, but you can't pull up that name, or you're looking for a word and you just can't get it. Those kind of things are very frustrating, very common. Attention and concentration. Maybe you like to read novels, and you read something, you come back to sit down and you can't remember what happened, and you don't know who the characters are. Very frustrating. Executive functions mean things like multitasking or organizing or trying to do mental math, like trying to figure out what the tip is at a restaurant. Of course, luckily anymore, we can't go to restaurants. I guess that's not lucky, but at least you don't have to do mental math, because you've got your calculator and you can just do it really fast and nobody sees you pull your calculator out to figure out a 10% or 25% tip. Motor and executive spatial skills, kind of like this. Like under normal circumstances, I would know where this is and I could take a drink, I could put it back down. But if my spatial skills are a little bit off, I might put it here and the whole thing tips. If you've been finding a lot of coffee on your floor or something like that, that might be one of the problems. Or you might find that you've got a ton of little bruises on your legs or on your arms, because when you go through the doorway, you don't quite make it and you whack your elbow or you bump your shins. That's part of the spatial imbalancing kind of skills. And of course, if you've got any or all of those things going on, your mood's going to be disrupted, because you're going to be kind of anxious, kind of scared, kind of depressed, kind of embarrassed. You don't really know if things are okay, or if you're dying, or if now you've got brain cancer. Chances are it's chemo brain, cancer-related brain fog. What causes that? Well, there's a ton of research going on right now, and we don't actually know, but what we do know is that the term chemo brain is really a misnomer, because people who never had chemo can still have this. So some of the causes or some of the contributors that they're looking at are on your slide here. First of all, the cancer. Is it the cancer itself? Interestingly enough, they've got some new research where they're doing this testing before people even have treatment. After they've been diagnosed, but they've had no treatment, they find out that about 25% of these people already have these problems. Some people believe that that's because your body's already trying to fight the cancer even before you know about it, and it's mounted an inflammatory response, which in some way or another affects the things that are going on in your brain. So that's one hypothesis. A second one is that it is chemotherapy. And there's a lot of support for that too, because it seems like people who have higher doses of chemotherapy actually seem to have more of these chemo brain side effects than people who had lighter doses. And they're looking at now the fact that some of the agents that are in the chemotherapy actually affect some of the neuronal connections within the brain, and that may be a piece of it. Doesn't explain all of it, but another contributor. Various medications. Aside from the chemotherapy drugs, there are a lot of other medications that are given to us, steroids, various other things, sometimes other medications that you're taking for other illnesses in combination with your chemotherapy treatment. Deconditioning, that means like when you're just kind of sitting around doing nothing for a long period of time. And a lot of times when people are going through cancer treatment, they really are just so exhausted, they're not able or don't have the energy to do a lot of activity. One of the things that we've noticed is when you're sitting around and you're not getting enough exercise, your metabolism slows and your brain function also seems to slow. The counter of that is there's a lot of research showing that when you get up and start moving and walking and doing more exercise, your mental acuity also picks up. So there's kind of a correlation there with exercise. Sleep disturbances and fatigue can really affect this as well. Makes a lot of sense, right? Even before cancer, if you don't sleep well, you're not so sharp the next day. And a lot of people who have been through cancer have sleep disturbances and may or may not be taking sleeping medication, which sometimes can affect this as well. The other thing that can happen is that during the course of cancer treatment, a lot of times people's appetite's really not very good. And so you end up eating whatever will kind of sit down, in your stomach. I know a lot of people that got all the way through their treatment on all white foods like, oatmeal, mashed potatoes, and vanilla ice cream, and that was about all they tolerated through a lot of chemotherapy. Well, if you are existing on a diet like that over the course of several months, you're probably lacking some of the nutrients your brain really needs, to get back in the driver's seat again. And of course, if you're anxious or stressed or depressed, all of this will make things worse. So we know that when we're depressed or where we're really scared, or even like if you have to give a speech or something like that, you're likely to maybe forget your lines. That sort of thing happens. And when we start seeing some of these side effects in ourselves, it makes us more self-conscious, it makes us more nervous, it puts more pressure, and of course that makes everything all worse. So if we want to look at how do we deal with this, we want to look again at the heart set and the mindset for this. So the heart set of tackling this brain fog issue is first of all to be kind to yourself. Kick that little bully out. That's a really tough one. I also talk in here about stop the horribilizing. I had a friend who always used to say, "Oh, you're horribilizing." And horribilizing means thinking of the worst possible thing that could be and talking about it more. Might be about your cancer, but we have a lot of horribilizers in the whole world right now. We're all going to heck really fast and everything's going to be awful and oh, woe is me. The more that you do that, the more you set up a state of anxiety. So if there's ever a time to surround yourself with positive, encouraging people, now would be the time, especially if you're experiencing any of the chemo brain symptoms. It does help to get more information on brain fog too, because the more you read about this, the more you can ease your anxiety about this. You just know more about it. You see that there are things getting better. There are things that you can do to help yourself as you're going. Practicing daily relaxation of some kind can really help a lot too. And whether that's going for a walk or whether it's getting on the comedy channel or something and laughing for half an hour, which is a really good way to relax. Might be yoga or Tai Chi or whatever appeals to you, listening to calming music, but you need to schedule that in every day. Make sure that you take time for that. And then, of course, eating well, trying to sleep well, trying to exercise, trying to get your nutrition back on track. All of those little things help. And I had a good friend one time who had dealt with cancer for a long, long time, and she always said, just remember, every little thing counts. Sometimes you don't see it, but every good thing that you do really does add up to count. And all of those things over time will help you see some results. So assuming that you've got this nice heart set going around trying to help yourself with this, what's the mindset to deal with this brain fog? This is an important one here. A Time to Heal actually has a very good class on this, and you can learn more, but I'm going to try to synopsize some of the important stuff here. Also in your area, you might notice and see if there are any cognitive rehabilitation classes going on, or you might find something like that online. But anything that's about cognitive rehabilitation will help. And there's a lot of stuff out now for all of us baby boomers about keeping our brains sharp. And a lot of those kind of things can help too. So anything that you can find along those lines will help. But I want to tell you about 4 things that I think are really key to this. The first one is slow down. Just really slow down. And this operates in 2 different realms. The first one is if you're trying to do anything, do one thing at a time. If you're trying to multitask, you are going to get off track and you're going to start moving things around in different directions. It's not a good thing to do. Do one thing at a time and do it just kind of consciously so that you can move through that one thing. You're much more likely to get accuracy if you do that. The second thing is if you're trying to learn new information or learn somebody's name or whatever, somebody's introduced to you, you really want to learn that. If they say, hi, my name is John Doe, you say, hi, John Doe, look them in the eye, look at their face, try to look at the environment that they're in, who's John Doe with, why is he introducing himself to you, this sort of stuff, so that you can get that in. If you don't get the name in, you're never going to be able to pull it back up again. Same thing if somebody's giving you directions. Maybe the doctor's telling you about some new medication you take. If somebody tells you something, try to get it in and then say it out loud, repeat it back to them. It will take time. It will slow them down a little bit. It'll slow you down a little bit. But you're much more likely to remember that if you get it in your brain first. Okay, number 2. This is what Mama always said. Mama told you, develop good habits. Good habits are really important. I cannot tell you how much more productive our entire world would be if we could stop looking for our keys, our shoes, our purses, our TV remotes, if we just always knew where they were. Many of us waste a lot of time every day looking for all these items that seem to run away. This is where good habits come in. You want to develop a good habit of having everything have a place and always put it back in the place. The reason why they're lost all the time is because we're very absent-minded about where we put things. We just come in and throw something someplace, we move it around. It might be in the refrigerator with the groceries. It might be in the bathroom because we really had to go when we came in. It could be any place. And so you have to run around the whole house looking for your keys or your phone or whatever. So what you want to do is you want to establish where are these things going to be. Always put them back in that place. It's a really good habit. It's a good thing to teach your kids. It's a good thing for everybody in the house to do. Second way that habits are really helpful is if you already have a habit and you need to do something else, you can link the new thing to your old good habit. So for instance, if you're the kind of person that's very faithful about your dental care and you faithfully brush your teeth every night and you've been doing that since Moby Dick was a minnow, this is an established habit. You're really good at this. So now if you have to take a new medication at night, you take that medication and put it right next to your toothbrush because it will be right there and that'll be the trigger that will remind you. Or if you don't like to leave medication out in your bathroom, take a little sticky note and tape it onto your toothpaste that says, take nighttime medication. And you can do that. So you can link an old good habit with something new that you have to do and you're much more likely to remember it. So develop good habits. Number 3, I said on here, multisensory. The more different ways you can learn to remember something, the better it is. So for instance, when you're a little kid and you're trying to learn the times tables, remember how we just had to say them over and over and over and over again, that rote memorization. That works pretty well for little kids, but when you become an adult, your brain doesn't work that way anymore. And so you need to do other things. But what do? We kind of fall back on that sometimes. So you say, I'm going to the store and I'm going to get milk, eggs, and bread, milk, eggs, and bread. And I'm trying to say to myself, milk, eggs, and bread. So I get in the car and drive to the store. By the time that I fumbled to put my mask on and I get in, and then I have to decide whether these carts have already been sanitized or whether I have to sanitize my own cart. And then I go in and then I get distracted because they have the most beautiful peaches on sale. And they used to give out free samples, but they don't. And I'm bemoaning that to the person that was sitting there saying, remember when they used to give out free samples? And by the time that I do this and I talk to a couple of other people and ask them, where did they put the ketchup? Because it's not where it used to be. And guess what? I came home with ketchup, peaches, and pizza because it smelled so good when they were making that. And maybe I got some bread, but guess what? I came home without the bread and the eggs, right? So the way that we need to do this, we need a different way to approach these things. So when you're just saying it in your head, it's kind of like you've got this little mental thing going on, but it's not enough. If you really want to remember something, you need to do it in a lot of different ways. So get yourself a notepad and write it. You're going to say out loud to yourself, I need milk, and then I write milk, eggs, I write eggs, bread, I write bread. Now I've had it in my brain, I've said it out loud, I've heard myself do it, and I've actually done a written thing, so I've got a sensory bodily thing doing it, and I've seen it. And so now I have that stored in my brain in 5 different ways. And when I do that, even if I forget where I put my note, I'm much more likely to remember it when I get there. So the more ways that you can incorporate different senses into trying to remember something, the better off it will be. Okay, last one, using tools. Some people are like, well, I don't want to use it. I don't want to have to write notes all the time. That just makes me feel like I'm using a crutch. Oh my gosh, what a total mistake that is. You really need to use all of these things, and actually it really makes you a lot better and it makes you a lot faster at doing things. So taking notes is really important. Rather than have tons of different notepads around, I think you need kind of 2 things. One of them is you need a little notebook that you can keep in your pocket or your purse that's with you all the time. And one of them is like sticky notes that you might need in your house just to remind you of different things. Both of those things can be really good. You need a timer. And this is one of the most important time management tools you can have. You know, you're thinking, oh, I've got to go to a doctor in 45 minutes. I've got 20 minutes before I really need to get in the car. I think I'm just going to check my email. Well, 45 minutes later, you're like, oh, I'm late to my doctor's appointment, because guess what? It's so easy for time to just fly by. So what you really need is you need to put a timer on. I used to have one that made me laugh. It looked like a little Holstein cow, and I would just wind it up, and then at the end it would go, moo. It's a really good thing because it kind of wakes you up and reminds you what to do. If you don't have something like that, you really are at a loss, but a cell phone will do. So find yourself a cell phone and give yourself a timer. Give yourself a little extra 5-10 minutes in there, so don't run it right up to the edge. But you can take your cell phone with you any place. Most of us have oven timers. I found that most people can't hear those from a room or 2 away. So it's like, it's better off to have something you can take with you. You can buy yourself a little Bessie the cow if you want, or you can use your cell phone. But either way, have a timer that you can take with you when you really have a time-sensitive thing you have to do. Calendars are really good too. And the calendar on your smartphone. The biggest problem that I'm finding with people right now is we don't know what day it is. One day kind of blurs into another during the pandemic. So guess what? You can use those good habits to do this. So if you're the kind of person that gets up every morning and makes a cup of coffee, get a little sticky note and put on the coffee pot and say, check your calendar. And then go in and just push the today button on your phone and it'll say, oh, here's my calendar for today. Because otherwise we might forget, or we might think we're on the wrong day. So those kinds of things are good. A lot of people ask about, like, should I be doing crossword puzzles or Sudoku or something like that? Absolutely. If you like that, go ahead and do that. Any kind of a brain stretching kind of activity will help. But if you don't like stuff like that, playing a musical instrument, gardening, painting, trying a new hobby, reading a book, even reading articles in the magazine. If things are too hard right now, start with something simpler, like get an easier crossword puzzle or something. Get one for little kids. If you start with the New York Times crossword puzzle, you might only be able to fill in 4 or 5 of the clues. But start with something easy and you will build up. It really helps over time to keep on doing that. So those are 4 things, 4 different strategies that you can use. Nobody can do all of those things at once. So again, think about your resources, think about your needs, and then pick one and commit to trying one for a week or two. Really work on that and see if that helps you. And then if you get one down pat and it becomes kind of regular, then you can move to something else. So be gentle. So in conclusion, the overall message for any kind of a negative side effect that you're experiencing from cancer, whether it's body image or whether it's chemo brain or whether it's anything else, is that it lies in creating the kind of environment that will help you in a nurturing way, the heart set, and using the resources that you have and the energy that you have, the mindset, putting both of those things together. Healing is a process that takes time, and it also takes a nurturing environment, and it also means that you have to do the work to locate the things that you need and then actually put those things into action for yourself. When you do those things, every good thing that you do counts. Everything is a step in the right direction. When you do this, you're going to be so proud of yourself because you are creating a new self that you can actually admire. You can feel good about what you've done. And when you get finished at the end of this, you can look back and share that good information that you've learned with other people and give them a helping hand along the way. So best of luck to you. And we will segue next into Dr. Kay Ryan, who will be giving you a little bit more instruction on how to create that sort of loving heart set. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dr. Kay Ryan, and today Steph has talked to you about the ideas and the strategies that could help you to really deal with the new me after cancer, cancer diagnosis, cancer treatment, that ongoing survivorship journey. So let's talk strategy. How do we actually get to a place where we can embrace that new me, that person who has become us as we have gone so far on this journey? I want to remind you that it's all about being a little kinder. I want to quote Aldous Huxley, who said, "It's a bit embarrassing to have been concerned with the human problem all of one's life and find at the end that one has no more to offer by way of advice than this: try to be a little kinder." So Steph talked to you about heart set. And what I want to give you today is a demonstration of a technique that can bring that heart set to a place where it really does embrace the new me. And the new me, as well as the compassion that we could feel for ourselves, for others, and for all of the earth. That's the compassionate heart set that Mother Teresa talked about when she said, "Be kind and merciful. Let no one ever come to you without leaving better and happier." So I want to bring first just a bit of science to you. The work of Dr. Rick Hansen, who I brought to you last year, but I'm bringing it to you again this year in a different context. He wrote a couple of recent books. One was about hardwiring our brain for happiness, and another one is about hardwiring our brain for resilience. Both of these are things that survivors need a little bit of extra help with sometimes because of the struggles that they've been going through. So his concept that he works with is a well-known phenomenon called neuroplasticity. And neuroplasticity really describes the idea that the brain has the ability to evolve and change, something like a muscle when you're working out, but that we can be in control of this process just as we can with the rest of our body in working out. You know that you sort of wear a well-worn path in your brain by things that you do over and over again. And Rick Hansen uses that concept of hardwiring or neural pathways that we build to say that we could focus on certain things that would change the way our brain does go on autopilot. So, for instance, if we have lots and lots of worries, which survivors and caregivers and the people around them that love them have, and they're thinking all the time about, oh my gosh, what if, lots of fears, those kinds of things, which is normal, then the brain has this well-worn path that says, when I'm not doing anything, the place I'm going to go is to this worry place. And what we're trying to give you today is a technique that gives the new path for the brain a path of compassion, compassion for ourselves and compassion for others, basically kindness. And so when your brain is looking for the place that it will go on autopilot, we can teach it to go there instead of to the other places which may have been not so happy for us in terms of worry, or maybe just putting ourselves down because we really didn't know how to deal with this new me. So that's his work, and I just want to put this thought in your head. What we're going to talk about is really wishing well or wishing kindness for people. That's the technique, and the way that we use neuroplasticity in this way is to imagine every wish that we say as becoming real. So a lot of you have learned wonderful relaxation techniques and meditation techniques through A Time to Heal. And this is one more technique that we're going to use. And this one involves not clearing your mind, but instead focusing your mind on what you're imagining, what you're wishing for, first of all, yourself and then for others. And the research says that loving kindness, though it's been an ancient practice in almost every spiritual tradition in some format, has been recently, in the last 20 years or so, very highly researched. In fact, it's the most researched of any of the relaxation or meditation techniques from all over the world. And what we have found out is that even though it has roots in all these different traditions, that it has come to us from so far from the East and West that we've been able to make a lot of comparisons about what happens to people who practice loving kindness on a regular basis. And we know from the research that it's been shown to enhance positive emotions. And we also feel that because of the research, we can see that it has some lasting psychological effects as well. Basically, it's good for you. There have been studies, although these big meta-analyses don't all study the same thing, but some of the studies have talked about it actually being able to reduce inflammation, reduce anxiety and depression, and to improve mood. And this is so awesome. It's actually been shown to change the way our DNA expresses itself. And that's really, as if you follow the research about cancer and development of cancer and cancer recurrence, it's very much of big interest in the scientific community how DNA expresses itself. So I can't think of a really big downside for loving kindness meditation. The reason that we feel this is so important is that though you've been on a really hard journey, this is the kind of practice that cultivates good-heartedness towards yourself, towards others, even towards your foes, but mostly embracing the new me. It cultivates kindness and acceptance and compassion towards ourselves. And so it's recommended that this practice be done daily, and that each time you practice this, you not only say the words, but you imagine each of the wishes that you're sending out to be actually coming true, and to really believe that you do, in fact, have the power to make these things come true. And so we want for you all of the internal kindness that loving kindness can project, and we want for you to embrace yourselves in this way. The practice of loving kindness really has 4 basic requirements, and I'll give those to you. The first is just to find a comfortable, quiet space. And the second is to assume a comfortable position. So maybe sit down in your chairs, and we'll try this in just a moment with your feet flat on the floor. And just really get your body comfortable. Maybe take a nice deep breath and let it out slowly. And feel your body relax. Do that a couple of times. And then just listen to the words that you will know really easily after you've done this for a while. and imagine that those wishes are coming true. And finally, just do it every day. So I'm going to run through this with you, so let's practice getting comfortable in our chairs and just putting our feet flat on the floor. Nice deep breath, let it out slowly. And feel your body relax. And now listen to the words and imagine them coming true. May I be at peace. May my heart be open. May I know the goodness of my own true nature. May I be safe and happy. May I be well. May you be at peace. May your heart be open. May you know the goodness of your own true nature. May you be safe and happy. May you be well. May my loved ones be at peace. May their hearts be open. May they know the goodness of their own true natures. May they be safe and well. May those I have conflict with be at peace. May their hearts be open. May they know the goodness of their own true natures. May they be safe and happy. May they be well. May all people be at peace. May their hearts be open. May they know the goodness of all their true natures. May all people be safe and happy. May all people be well. May the earth and all its creatures be at peace. May all living things experience love and kindness. May their true natures nurture each other and the earth. May every living being be free from suffering. May all the earth and all living beings be well. And now, as you bring your awareness back to the present, stay just a moment in that feeling of a full heart, of good-natured loving kindness for all. Steph and I wish you peace. We wish you wellness. And most of all, we send you our loving kindness. So on behalf of A Time to Heal, please stay safe, be happy, be well. Thank you.
Whenever I needed you, you appeared.
Like magic.
Yeah, even when I had cancer. I mean, Nebraska medicine was amazing, treating me based on my DNA. But you did the magic part.